I'm Lydia Carter, and I'm the founder and CEO of Campbell School for Girls. In 2011, I was approached by Robert Murphy, Calvin Murray, and Stanley Jackson. They had talked for years about opening an all-boys school. I worked with Calvin at the time for the EdPass program through Franklin County Children's Services. Calvin knew that I was a licensed school treasurer and a licensed school business manager, and he asked me to sit in on the meeting, the organizing meeting of the boys' schools, Master's Preparatory Academy. The law stated at that time that if you had a single-gender school, you had to open a school that was comparable for the opposite gender. So Columbus City Schools has an all-boys middle school, an all-girls middle school, and there is a private girls' school, Columbus School for Girls, that serves girls in kindergarten through 12th grade. So in the city of Columbus, under the current Ohio law, as it was then, if your daughter was in 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, or if you had at least $18,000 to spend a year in tuition, your daughter could take advantage of single-gender education. The guys that I worked with, people had told them for years they would never be anybody. They would never amount to anything. And they had specific passions and goals to help young men. And again, because of the law, that option was not available. So it came to a point where we knew in order to reach the boys the way we wanted to, we had to either get a girls program to be comparable to what we were giving the boys, or we had to change the law. And so what I did was reached out to Senator Peggy Lehner and worked with the guys so that we could do both. We went to her and said, look, here's what we're trying to do. Here's why we believe this needs to happen. Can you help? And she said, I will do my best. I'll do everything that I can. I did a lot of research to find out what has to happen in Columbus. What kind of program would be comparable to help the girls that were in the city of Columbus? I found a woman named Frances Frazier, the lead researcher of a Rise Sister Rise study. And the issues that urban girls face in Columbus were pretty frightening. And I found out that girls were leaving high school and going to jail at a higher rate than the boys. We were even more concerned about getting a program that would service girls and boys, and the programs had to be different. It was difficult then for us to have comparable services because there were different issues. June of 2012, the law passed, the amendment passed, and with the boys' blessings, I was able to still do the organizing work with them and open Campbell School for Girls. So the debate is that many people feel that single-gender education isn't as effective as we say it is. They believe it's still a discriminatory practice, that test scores aren't any different. But there are more and more studies that are coming out from places like UCLA, like the Department of Education, from the mouths of people and students who've actually graduated from these kinds of schools that beg to differ. There are issues that urban girls deal with that other students don't. We know that there are trauma issues that these girls bring from home to school that other students don't. And so there needs to be an environment to help them learn and achieve while dealing with and being resilient to all the other issues. And that was the passion for this school. If you had $18,000 in the city of Columbus, or if you were in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, then you could attend a school that made it easy for you to overcome some of these issues. If you did not have $18,000, if you were a 4th grader, if you were a 4th grade girl, and your parents didn't make any money, that option was not available. So the passion and commitment behind this school is to be able to have a feasible alternative to any family, regardless of income, regardless of socioeconomic status, to have that option available should the family choose. I took a tour through the Columbus School for Girls. And that's where the tuition is $18,000 a year. And the place is beautiful. Professional theaters, Olympic-sized pools, technology like you wouldn't believe. I wish every girl could go to a school like that. Unfortunately, in this country, the way we live, there are some things that only money can buy. Campbell School for Girls is tuition free. So we don't have an Olympic-sized pool, but there are some things that you can get when you come to our school that money can't buy. So when you have a school that says to little girls, this year you are not allowed to wear braids, you're not allowed to wear afros, you're not allowed to wear twists, what message are you sending? I've been in schools where administrators would poorly mock African American mothers. What kind of message are you sending to those kids that come to your school? How can you honestly want the best for them, expect the best for them, regardless of how their hair looks, regardless of whether they have two mommies or two daddies, regardless of where they worship? If those things are intrinsically in you to want those children to succeed, and if it's not intrinsically in you to know that they can and that you want them to, it won't happen. And so those are the things that money can't buy. When a little girl walks into our school, she will know that everyone in the building, from the janitor to the cook to its CEO to everyone, knows that that child will succeed, can succeed, that she's fine the way God made her. Every resource we have will be put into that child. I grew up in a home where I needed and wanted for nothing. Now, my parents tell me that we were poor when we were younger, but I never knew. By the time I was able to know that I could have what I wanted, I didn't know. I didn't remember anything about their socioeconomic status when I was younger. I was married at 18, had both of my children by the time I was 20, divorced at 23. And so I grew up, again, in a home where dignitaries were entertained. I went from a place like that to digging between seat cushions to get 35 cents for my kids' reduced lunch because I didn't want my parents to know that I didn't have the money. As I'm sending my kids to school with this 35 cents for reduced lunch, none of those teachers, none of those administrators, none of the counselors, no one at the school knows my family history. No one perceives me as being in a temporary condition. They see it as permanent. And so they treat me and my children as if we didn't matter. And though I didn't know when this day would come, there was something in me that seed was planted then to know that when I had the opportunity to help another family, to help another mother just make it, that I would do all that I knew how to do that. And it was just by the grace of God that through my background in education, my undergrad, I graduated from Kent State with a degree in education. But I am a licensed treasurer and a state licensed business manager. And the administrators that I've met and the opportunities, the experiences that I've had have all come together to actually now give me the experience that I need to open a school and help other mothers and families come and create more compassionate, competent, and courageous young women. Once I started the project, though, I had no idea that there was a legacy that went much farther back than just me and my single parent life. My grandmother taught school in the 1920s. She taught in a one-room schoolhouse. We still have books in my father's library that she used to earn her teaching certificate. She taught on a Georgia plantation in the 1920s. And then my father then taught. He was a teacher, a principal, a guidance counselor, and retired as a college administrator.
I'm Betty Bender.
And I'm Dr. Obie Bender.
1893. The Campbell legacy began with my great-grandfather, Butler Campbell. He and several other black families purchased land on Merritt Island, Florida, shortly after the Civil War. That was over 100 years ago. They built what was called the first colored schoolhouse. It was reported in the local newspaper that the children were very proficient in math, Latin, and literature. My grandfather, Willie Campbell, was valedictorian of the first graduating class. He loved literature, and his favorite author was Ralph Waldo Emerson, for which he named his only son. So we have a long legacy of educated people.
I've been fortunate enough to be in education for over half a century, and that is a long time, but it's been enjoyable, and I've had the opportunity to deal with hundreds and hundreds of fine young men and women and help them in their educational efforts. I've started as a school teacher in Canton, Ohio. I've taught everything from there through doctoral students and a professor at Baldwin Wallace College. So my whole career has been dedicated to working with, creating, and improving the education for all of us. Well, from my point of view, it's important because I think it has been the essence of progress for all of us. We're in a competitive world, and also not just to help the world, but I think it helps us as individuals. It helps us to enjoy what God's put around us. It helps us to enjoy and to be able to make living and make it comfortable for our families.
And also, an education is potential to open up doors to your brain that will help you to expand the knowledge that you need to be successful. It helps for our future generations that we can hand down and continue to progress.
It is an important foundation for the rest of your life. And it also is going to help you to help others, not just yourself. And I think that that is the kind of foundation and support that is important for us to become a part of a great world and this tremendous future.
Growing up in a household where my father was an educator, he didn't just teach. He brought children home. He made sure they were warm. He made sure they were fed. He made sure their parents understood what he was trying to do. He made every student feel needed, wanted, accepted. He helped encourage them to be resilient. He was challenging, so his students were quite competent. They were learning things in high school that he had taught them in 6th grade. So when my father's students were in 10th grade science, they would say, hey, that's what we did in Mr. Bender's class in 6th grade. He was innovative. He was comprehensive. All the things that educators are trying to do now and say, why don't we try? These aren't new things. These are things that we've just kind of let fall by the wayside. And so Campbell School for Girls and the experience that I've had is something that will bring all this back. And I mean, that's the experience that girls will have when they come to my school.
We try to teach the importance of knowledge. And it is the root of moving you forward in the world. And it gave you the opportunity to be successful and to help others as well. And that is, I think, the important part of education. Help you to understand the environment and to contribute to our nation and our world.
And they were always exposed to an environment that was about education. And when Obie was at Baldwin Wallace, they were exposed to all the students there getting an education. And they could see the product.
And it was from A to Z. We had opportunities to hear outstanding music, concerts, lectures. I worked as a psychologist with the Cleveland Browns football team. We were able to work with the Professional Golfers Association. We were able to start programs that are now major in helping youth. So I think we were able to contribute. And that is satisfaction to understand that not only did it help us to earn a living, but it helped us, we hope, to make a better world. Many of the people that we have met, yes, we were blessed and fortunate enough to meet the Tiger Woods, a few presidents of the United States, some tremendous athletes. But, I think what was even more important, it gave us the intelligence and the learning structure where we value all humans. I think our education helped us to understand that great people are all of us. We all have that kind of potential. It is in all of us. And our job and our responsibility is to do everything we can in our formal education and informal education in our homes to provide just a quality life and to help the world.
We use the term charter school very, very loosely. And a lot of people don't realize that all schools are charter schools. Any school that's accredited with the state has a charter with the state that says, this is what you need to do for the state to recognize that you've educated your students the way Ohio believes students should be educated. Most of the time when people refer to charter schools, they're really talking about community schools. Campbell School for Girls is a community school. We are a small one-school district. We have to address the same issues that larger districts do, but we are community schools. The problem, I think, is that most charter schools don't operate like community schools. Once the enrollment is met, the day goes on as usual, tests are taken, and it's the same old day in, day out. That's not a community school. A community school to me is one school that will address the needs of its community. So when your daughter comes to my school, that automatically makes her family a part of my community. The traffic that drives by my school is a part of my community. The people that live in my neighborhood, whether they have kids at that school or not, are now a part of my community. And so because of that, there are activities in that school, like a food bank, Girl Scouts, where any girl can come, classes for parents, financial classes, resume writing. We're working with organizations like Successful Single Moms so that when you're tired, when your family is tired, you can have a place to get away and we can keep your children overnight. That's what a community school is. A school, a charter school, which we all are, is not, to me, just a place where your kid shows up in the morning. You give them breakfast, lunch, snack, and they go home. It's a place where you involve the whole family and you involve the whole community and you leave a footprint in that place. So that once Lydia Carter does not exist anymore, where I've stepped in that community, people will know that I've been there. People will know that my girls were there because I expect each of my girls to leave a legacy when they leave. I brought a legacy to the school with the expectation that they will take a legacy with them when they leave.
This is an opportunity for us to reach into the realm of education and add the opportunities that are sometimes not offered in all institutions. To have our Campbell School for Girls will, I believe, offer some great opportunities for learning that may not be offered to all young ladies at this point. So we feel that this is another important part of quality education for everyone.
The purpose of Campbell School for Girls is twofold. One is academic, one is economic. Academically, we want girls to become competent, compassionate, and courageous. Competency will come from the Common Core, the STEM-based curriculum, the extracurricular activities, having a well-rounded day, the classical dance, ballet and African dance, singing and drama, learning about different cultures through Chinese. The economic part is really getting the girls involved in STEM, learning how to think, how to problem solve, how to collaborate, how to become thinkers, how to engineer solutions to problems, and hopefully steer them into choosing STEM careers so We know that even though 2/3 of our girls love science and math, only 8% of them graduate with a STEM major. And so this is an economic component because still in this day and age, women still only earn $77 for every 100 that men earn. And a lot of that is because of the careers that we choose. If we can keep them interested in science and engineering and math, give them the competency that they need to pass entrance exams, and then model for them how to become resilient. When girls learn how to become compassionate about things that they've learned about, things that they know and have a competency of, they can make changes